And this is a solo game that takes 90 minutes to play. And in this game, you're going to be choosing one of the many gladiators to play as. And then you're going to be playing over 4 acts, trying to train and level up and defeat a specific champion each and every act in order to earn the right to go up against the final most powerful champion. But every act, players will only have 12 weeks at their disposal in order to spend training and exploring the world, and eventually fighting and defeating that specific champion for that act. And if they're not able to do that, then they will immediately lose at that act. And the main way that players are going to be leveling up throughout this game is by visiting the various locations on the map, because each location is going to be associated with a specific deck of cards, and each of these cards represents different types of events. And some of these events could trigger you going into training exercises where you can level up and recruit new units, while other events might have you encountering hostile opponents, and if you defeat them, you'll earn points that you can spend to level up on your own personal player board. But of course, there can just be all sorts of other events as well that just have a whole range of effects and options for players to choose from. But anytime that you're resolving one of the combat events, you're going to be going to the associated combat board, and there's 8 different boards, adding a lot of variety into the game because each of them do play a little bit differently and have different effects and options to choose from. But you'll be drawing your opponent chips from a bag, and at the start of the game, the bag has just very basic units, and then you'll be deploying them out on the board and then also issuing out your own chips. You're going to be alternating back and forth between your turn and the enemy's turn, deploying different units, issuing attacks, and rolling dice in order to make those attacks depending on the stats that are located on your specific unit's chip. The different units can have a variety of stats that indicate their movement points, their attack power, their accuracy, and some of them can even have some special abilities as well. Some of the encounters can also put various items out on the main board that either the enemy or the players can take into their inventory and use during the battle. And each of the enemies will have different movement and attack patterns depending on the type of unit that they are. With every battle that a player has, you're going to be adding a new elite unit chip into the enemy's unit bag, which means that you have a higher likelihood of drawing more difficult units as the game goes on. But if the combat that you're in was triggered by the training event, then it is considered a skirmish against friendly gladiators, and you will be able to recruit one of them at the end of that battle. But you can only recruit the ones that you don't accidentally kill, so you do want to try and win this battle without causing any casualties. The game continues like this, and if you're able to defeat each of those champions as well as that final champion, then you win the game. But in addition to the main game, this new campaign is going to be introducing 3 new expansions. The first expansion is going to be called the Pandora's Ruin expansion. It's going to be adding a bunch of new modules that you can mix into the game. There's going to be 3 new final boss champions that you can play in any of your campaigns. There's also going to be new mechanisms for fighting those champions, as well as new mechanisms introduced to each of the arenas. Not only that, but this expansion also introduces a new way to play the game with a variant that allows you to play the game significantly faster. The Pandora's Wake expansion is going to be introducing a whole new faction of gladiators that you can encounter and recruit and probably also play as, but it's also going to be introducing 2 new arenas with their own mechanisms and boards that you'll also be able to mix into the game. And then finally, there is Pandora's Might that's just going to be adding a bunch of new heroes that you can play as in any of your campaigns. And if this one does sound interesting to you, you'll definitely want to check out the campaign because you'll get a few other items added to the game with this micro expansion. And if you are interested to check it out, I do have it linked in the description below.